I'm John Illsley and founder member of Dire Straits from quite a long time ago. And I've been a musician all that time, but I started painting quite seriously in 1992. Well, I got an email from Paul, and he outlined the project, and I wrote back to him and I said, that's pretty ambitious, because trying to get hold of people in the music business I know is difficult, because everybody's very busy doing their own thing and they travel a lot or they live in different countries. So I thought, well, you know, it's I think because the Beatles connection made probably people sit up and listen and think, well, can they do it? And of course it was an interesting brief, and so there we are. That's how it all started. Well, my initial reaction was, as I said, I think it was a kind of a brave thing to do, because I know I have got myself involved in charity things in the past, and they are unbelievably time consuming. You spend a hell of a lot of time organising people, trying to get people to contribute, and I believe that they've been very successful. Paul's been very successful in getting a lot of help with this, which is great. And I think that, you know, once you get a few people on board, then the wheels start to turn. I use the analogy of Live Aid, because essentially Bob was really struggling to get people to play at Live Aid, but he said, no, I'm not doing it. Who else is doing it, sort of thing, you know. And of course, as soon as one person said, or a major person said they were going to do it, everybody says, oh, well, maybe I'll do that too. And then it snowballed. And that's what you have to do with these things, is you have to get somebody, a name, interested, and then everybody says, oh, yeah, well, if they're doing it, I'll do it, you know. So this box arrives, and it's just about got everything you could possibly need to do something with. But of course, I usually paint in oils. I don't use acrylics at all, or watercolour. So this was the first time I've ever done an acrylic painting, or a watercolour painting, ever. So it was quite an experience for me to start using the paints and think, oh, wow, how do these things work? You know, with oil, I kind of understand the process. And so big sheets of paper and lots of ideas and a lot of things thrown away. Start again, okay. And gradually, you know, images start to appear and things start to work. But that's the way that I work with my own paintings. I tend to let things just flow. I try and let my mind be dead, if you know what I mean. Like, take all the senses out that I'm thinking of and just let ideas come as they come, and marks and shapes and all the rest of it. And then gradually, you know, the thing evolves. It took quite a long time, actually, longer than I would normally take on something, but I thought it was worth the time spent on it. I would say, if I was to count all the hours of it, it was probably about 4 or 5 days, which is quite a long time for me. When I do something, I usually do it quite quickly. Well, the first thing that, of course, strikes you is the variety. People have come at it with all sorts of different ideas and notions, and I'm looking at Florence Welch's over there, and she's obviously done that on her own, you know, and other guys have done the corners like the Beatles did, and I rather like, you know, Elvis Costello's one. I rather like that one. That really works very well. He's obviously done a bit of painting, I think. But what's interesting is that people say, oh, I can't paint. You know, I can't draw a straight line. Well, don't ever try and draw a straight line. That's incredibly boring. And, you know, but there's such a remarkable sort of attempt to make something happen, which I think is really good, you know, because it tests you to make something worthwhile that somebody else wants to look at. You know, I don't know whether Paul's had a few and gone, oh, this isn't, I don't know what I'm going to do with this, or whether he's taken them all and framed. I've no idea. I haven't even spoken to him about that. But, you know, you're going to get a big assortment when you ask all those different characters to respond to something like this. I'd actually started painting when I was about 15. When I was at school, I had a very incredibly good art master who really stimulated me. And that really coincided with picking the guitar up. So the two things were running parallel. But when the Straits thing happened, you know, basically you just run with it. And then when Mark and I decided to call it a day in 92, 93, I thought, okay, this is an opportunity to do the other thing. So I bought myself a studio. Well, room and set about trying to be a painter. And that's really what I've been doing ever since, to be honest. I've done 5 solo shows in London. I've done a show in New York, show in Sydney, show in Singapore, show in southern France. I still write, and I go out with some guys every year to do some touring just to keep myself amused, and it's great fun, just on that very small level. But really, I think, if I'm honest, the art has really, in a sense, taken over my thinking time, And I'm like Leonard Cohen, a very slow writer, so an album will take 2 or 3 years to put together. Well, I'd just like to wish the project the very best, and good luck with it all. I hope you raise loads of money. 2 very worthwhile charities. There's lots of charities, but these 2 are pretty worthwhile. I like the fact that children and music, that makes sense to me.